Hi, I'm Robin.
And I'm Chris. Together we're the Gen X couple.
Hey guys.
Take one. Hello, everyone.
Today, it's finally time. We are going to talk about Pukwudgies. Ewanchu. And I'm going to explain what that is later, but I'm super excited. I have this weird thing about Pukwudgies. I don't ever want to see one, but I'm super excited to tell you guys all about them today. So, we've talked about this before several times, the Bridgewater Triangle. It's that mysterious region in southeastern Massachusetts. And that's where the Pukwudgies are centered. We know we've talked about them before, but today we're going to do a deep dive on the most elusive, clever, and sometimes unsettling residents, the Pukwudgies.
Now, Pukwudgies are small humanoid creatures from Algonquian folklore.
Algonquian.
Traditionally, they're tricksters, sometimes helpful, sometimes mischievous, occasionally even dangerous. They've been part of the native storytelling for centuries, and in the Bridgewater Triangle, particularly in the Freetown State Forest, modern sites continue to this day.
Sightings. And yeah, if you go on Reddit, there's a bunch of sightings. There are tons of stories, actually, of people's encounters with Pukwudgies. We've told you before, but just in case this is your first time here, the Bridgewater Triangle itself is roughly bounded by the towns of Abington to the north, and then the other 2 points are Rehoboth and Freetown. And it's infamous for all kinds of unexplained phenomena. Strange lights, animal behavior that makes no sense, and of course cryptids. Bigfoot, thunderbirds, all kinds of crazy animals. The Freetown State Forest is particularly intriguing, and Chris and I previously did talk about an experience we had there and why we'll never step foot in the Freetown Forest again. Go back and listen. I forget. I think it was about a year ago. Was that in that Bridgewater Triangle episode? It must have been.
May have been, yeah.
So the Freetown State Forest has over 5,000 acres of dense woods, ponds, streams, old stone walls, and abandoned homesteads. So it's no wonder that people report strange encounters there. The forest almost feels alive, which, again, Chris and I had an experience there. Go back and listen. It was creepy. You can feel it when you walk the trails, right?
Yes. It was creepy.
It was creepy. We should just say it real quick. Do you want to say it?
No.
We were deep. We were deep in there. It was like March. I forget what year, but we were pretty deep in the forest. I would say probably close to a mile, because we had been walking for 15, 20, 25 minutes. So we were in there pretty good. And I heard it, and I didn't acknowledge it, but I could hear drumming coming from the woods, but it sounded like it was like really far off. But like you could hear it. It was like drumming in the forest. And we just continued to walk, and I was like, oh, that's weird. What the heck is that? Why would somebody be drumming? It was like cold. It was like March in New England, which is cold.
In the middle of the forest.
In the middle of the forest. I was like, And then a few minutes later, Chris and I made contact, and we just kept walking forward this whole time, and the drum was staying the same. Like, it wasn't getting any softer or louder. It was just the same sound level, loudness. And eventually we made eye contact, and I'm pretty sure we didn't even speak. We just knew. We looked at each other, we turned around, and we walked out with haste.
And we haven't been back since.
I don't been there ever again. That creeped me out, because I know there was something in those woods watching us, and I will never ever step foot in there again. But anyway, so that's the Freetown State Forest. It's creepy, and that's my point. It's the perfect environment, actually, for a Pukwudgie.
And that's exactly where we meet Bill Russo.
Yes, this is what I have been dying to talk to you guys about.
From Raynham, Massachusetts. In the late 1990s, Bill was hiking a less traveled trail near the Freetown Fall River State Forest boundary. It was early morning, fog laid across the ground, and he noticed movement at the corner of his eye. At first, he assumed it was a deer, but it wasn't. It was a small, hunched figure about 3 feet tall with gray skin and glowing eyes, darting behind a rock and then reappearing moments later. Bill described it as a playful, unaware, almost intelligent, like it was teasing him. That encounter only lasted a few minutes, but it stayed with him for days. He kept looking over his shoulder, convinced he was still being watched, even after he returned home.
Yeah, actually, it happened in Raynham. It happened near the power lines in Raynham, so I don't even know why it said near the Freetown State Forest. It happened in Raynham. That's a town that actually borders the town that we live in. And there's a documentary on Amazon about the Bridgewater Triangle where he was interviewed, and he said that the Pukwudgie said to him, "I want you," and Bill said that he thought it was saying, "I want you," like to lead him away to
Yes,
do
that's creepy.
God knows what. But it just sounded funny when he said it, "I want you." So whenever I talk about Pukwudgies, that's the first thing that pops into my brain is like one of them saying, "I want you." Anyway, he was also interviewed. We had seen a show, and it was like a spin-off, I think, of Skinwalker Ranch, maybe, where they had gone to a bunch of different quote-unquote hotspots for paranormal activity, and they interviewed the guy again, the same guy, and this was like 15 years after that original documentary, and he's much older, but he tells the same story. He wants you. But Bill's experience is really just one of many. Over the decades, campers, hikers, and hunters have reported similar sightings. A camper in the 1980s near Baker's Pond, which is deep within the Freetown Forest, described footsteps circling his tent late at night. When he looked out, he saw a small gray figure at the tree line. And then there were some teenagers near Long Pond in the early 2000s that reported glowing eyes moving through the trees, small figures knocking over logs, and even sounds that seemed almost musical. Hunters described crouched figures near the Assonet River tributaries, darting along the stone walls and vanishing instantly. And there were even stories of small fires appearing and disappearing mysteriously. But what's remarkable is how consistent the reports all are. Small, clever, playful, and always deliberate. They interact with the environment, the humans observing them, and they seem to know exactly what they're doing.
The psychologically behind these encounters is interesting. Dense forest, low light, fog, uneven terrain, all heighten perception. Every snap of a twig or rustle of leaves becomes significant. Local folklore primes people to see patterns and interpret them as Pukwudgies. But there's more than perception at play. The creatures are part of cultural memory.
Algonquian
stories describes Pukwudgies as clever tricksters, and modern sightings reflect those traits. Teasing, watching, testing humans. Bill Russo's encounter is a prime example. The figure's deliberate behavior, hiding, reappearing, observing, fits perfectly with centuries-old descriptions.
Yeah, and there are other sightings that go beyond mere glimpses. In the early 2000s, where back by Long Pond, a couple camping near there in an isolated spot, and that Long Pond is in the middle of the Freetown State Forest where we heard the drumming, they reported that rocks were mysteriously stacked in patterns overnight near their campsite. They hadn't seen anyone else on the trail. And in another account, a group of teenagers hiking the Stone Church Trail heard whistling and clicking sounds coming from the trees. And when they turned to look, they saw small gray creatures darting behind stone walls, only to peek back at them moments later, almost taunting them. The Pukwudgies, I think everybody around here knows that they're known for mischief. They hide belongings, they create small disturbances, and sometimes even lure people off of familiar paths.
Exactly. Pukwudgies are tricksters. Witnesses describe them moving silently, appearing in one spot, and disappearing the next. Some reports even suggest they can imitate sounds, footsteps, whispers, or even animal calls to confuse them or mislead people. There are stories of hikers being led to dead ends on the Bourne Road trails, only to find the forest calm and empty. When they retrace their steps, they seem to delight in testing humans, but rarely do they cause true harm. It's as if they're reminding us that the forest is not ours alone.
Yeah, it's true. Another fascinating account comes from a hunter in the late 1990s near the Maple Swamp area. He was following a deer trail when he saw a small gray figure crouched by a stream. The creature looked up, held his gaze for a moment, and then just poof, he vanished. Moments later, a series of small stones were neatly lined up on a rock nearby. The hunter insisted no one else could have placed them. These types of intentional interactions are what make Pukwudgies so memorable. They're not just the sightings, they're the behaviors, the small games, and the tests of perception.
There are also reports of Pukwudgies creating small fires or glowing lights. One hiker near Briggs Corner recounted how late in the evening a faint orange light appeared near a clearing. When they approached, the light flickered and disappeared, leaving only a faint scent of smoke. Others reported glowing eyes reflecting the moonlight from tree branches or stone walls. It's these moments, fleeting, impossible to capture fully, that give the creatures their legendary status.
Yeah, I will chime in and say we do have a lot of other creatures in the forest around here, so it could have been a deer, a raccoon, a fisher cat. There's a lot of other stuff here, so I just want to put that out there. Not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying that it is possible that the eyes were from another creature. And yeah, I lost my spot though. Where was I?
Oh, you're going to talk about the seasonal changes?
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Seasonal changes seem to influence encounters also. In the fall, the crunch of the leaves miffles? I just pulled a Chris. It muffles footsteps and makes movement harder to track. In the winter, snow absorbs sound, leaving only footprints behind. Foggy spring mornings obscure the forest, creating eerie shapes and shadows. People report feeling watched more intensely during those types of conditions. It's as if the forest itself conspires with the Pukwudgies, amplifying their presence and awareness of it.
So even today, hikers and campers in Freetown State Forest report similar experiences. Figures darting along stone walls, strange clicking or whistling sounds, objects moved without explanation.
Yeah, and that's why these stories continue to capture the imagination. Bill Russo, he's just been interviewed, but there's been a lot of other people that have had countless experiences, and that really just shows us that Pukwudgies are not just random shadows. They're real, you guys, and that's part of what makes the Bridgewater Triangle so compelling.
Yes, these creatures challenge perception and expectation. There are reminders that humans are not the only observers in the forest. Whether they are physical beings or a product of folklore and heightened perception, their presence has shaped how generations of locals experience the forest. Next time you explore the Freetown State Forest, keep your eyes open, stay aware, and remember some of the smallest creatures leave the biggest impression.
Yeah, they do. The next time you hear a twig snap or see a fleeting shadow run behind a stone wall, think about the Pukwudgies. We want you. They may be watching, they may be waiting, or just simply playing a game with you. You don't know. And maybe that's the most fascinating part, that in a forest that may seem familiar, there are still things we just can't fully understand. And that's all we have to say about the Pukwudgies. We hope you guys found this interesting. All I have to say is, want you.
So see you later, alligator.
No, you just went right to it. In a wild crocodile.